As the president continues to go about shamelessly touting how his policies have brought on an economic recovery, we have found two factual errors in his assessment. Number one, that there is no such recovery, that the global economy is still pending towards a worldwide collapse over the near 2 months. And number two, that everything President Obama has done up to this point has been sheer perpetuation of this collapse, as typified by his commitment to the bailout, his disgusting neglect of the failure of the states, and especially his program for Nazi T4-style healthcare reform to kill Americans. As the fiscal year comes to a close, and everybody will have to open up their books and show the world their dirty laundry, Lyndon LaRouche has warned emphatically over the past 2 weeks that in light of this event, the system in its current form will technically not make it past the first weeks of October, and that if you factor in the reality of collapsing living conditions hitting the entire population, we may not have to wait until October. People are being hit now, and people are being devastated by worsening conditions at increasing rates by the week. Do you think people will wait, or better said, afford to wait until October? Currently, 48 of our 50 states are bankrupt, breaking down into a state of ungovernability. Budgets aren't being met, and as a result, states are taking the most extreme measures to make ends meet. Take, for example, the massive austerity blows mandated by Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. The California governor, along with the morally compromised state legislature, has delivered a number of decisions to slash state workers, infrastructure, and vital public services down to the bone. Just to name a few examples, so far, 210,000 state employees will be furloughed. Fire trucks and ambulances will be permanently taken out of service. Services provided to senior citizens, such as senior centers and Medi-Cal, will be dramatically reduced, and hundreds of millions of dollars have been cut from healthcare services provided to over 900,000 poor children, as Schwarzenegger lights a victory stogie. But California isn't the only state implementing genocide. It may set the standard for fascist austerity, but the other states of the Union themselves aren't short of budget-balancing proposals to kill its population either, whether wittingly or by sheer political impotence. In Illinois, Obama's home state, as the result of achieving a balanced budget mid-July, an initial 3,000 state workers have been laid off, and 30,000 children will no longer have preschool programs. In Michigan, aid to mental health agencies and monthly welfare grants are now on the conveyor belt heading for the chopping board. Ohio, in order to arrive at a budget, will enact a 20% reduction in the Department of Aging, removing $68 million from various programs, including home-based health care. And in Alabama, the state's largest county, Jefferson County, laid off 2/3 of its public employees on Monday, cutting an entire range of services, including security and law enforcement. Meanwhile, officials are reporting that nursing homes can no longer afford to bury poor patients. On the national scale, unemployment figures are soaring. As LaRouche pointed out in his most recent webcast, about 30% of the U.S. labor force are unemployed, with less than 1/3 of the unemployed receiving compensation, and that decreasing as people are no longer eligible for unemployment benefits and as state unemployment funds are running dry. This increasing rate of national unemployment and underemployment then feeds into the rate of collapsing revenues, home foreclosures, and burden on the public health services like Medicaid. And the list goes on. But what is to occur between now and October should be clear. There will be chaos in the states. There will be riots. The United States will become ungovernable, and the situation will become open to dictatorship. If we continue to leave it up to the local and state governments, there's really nothing they can do. They can keep going until they cut their entire living population out of the budget, and they'll still end up facing the same problems. What we're living in today is a culmination of the past 40-plus years of physical takedown of the real economy, witting destruction of the productive sector and living conditions for the sake of an inherently illegal and immoral casino economy. But what has happened since Lyndon LaRouche declared the collapse of the financial system, July of 2007, well, the financial system collapsed, and has been collapsing at an accelerating rate since then, and now threatens to take the world population down with it, if not eliminated. Therefore, the best and only thing local and state governments can do for their population at this point is to demand that the current monetary system be declared dead. No more bailouts at the expense of the population, and go with Lyndon LaRouche's Homeowners and Bank Protection Act. In the immediate interim, LaRouche proposes an emergency federal legislation, an emergency revenue sharing law, to alleviate the crisis and prevent chaos at the state level. All it requires is an act of Congress, and this to be accomplished in tandem with bankruptcy reorganization and the implementation of an international credit system. And if you're worried about what Obama thinks, well, Obama's on his way out. His popularity is gone. His overall economic policies and narcissistic commitment to implementing his own version of Adolf Hitler's healthcare reform has brought him to a clinical final stage of self-destruction. Either he chooses to dump those behaviorists beside him and come under adult supervision under the more competent wing of the institution of the presidency, and that very soon, or he's going to be out. As for the Congress, especially those who have acted in lockstep with the president's economic and euthanasia policies, they haven't been receiving warm but heated reception back home by the same constituency who had voted for them the last time around, giving those congressmen a summer vacation they'll never forget. The population is suffering, and they know it's only going to get worse. At this point, popular opinion is dead and worthless. So there's really nothing in the way of getting a real recovery. The solutions have been clearly laid out, and the population will embrace it. The only question is, will you make it happen soon?